Hi everyone. In this video I would like to briefly go over setting up a character ready for animation. So preparing our character. Now specifically we'll be using Maya's human IK system, which I've got set up on the right hand side here. Now, let's get straight into this, and it won't take long, by the way. Remember, this is just the initial setup routine you need to go through, and it's only with the human IK system that you need to do this. All right, so I'll just walk you through this setup routine, and then we'll get into a little bit of animation just to get you up and rolling a little bit quicker. Okay, so make sure you are in the human IK window, which is a little T-pose man up here. Okay, you'll be moving out of modeling into the little T-pose guy, and make sure you're not in the skeleton or definition tab, but in the controls tab. Okay, and you should have your character selected up here in under character there. So if it's got none, make sure you do change it to your character. All right, and make sure you have control rig selected. All right, like that. Now, first up, you'll notice that it's changed to yellow joints. These are not actual joints being yellow. What they are, these are FK, forward kinematic controls. Okay, so to turn those on and off, it's on the left hand side here. We're just going to run through some of these, the menu items on the top here. So the very first one is the controls on and off. So the first three are for visibility. This one here, on and off. Notice the controls are turning on and off. The control is just a little circle. These little circles, those are the controls that we'll be using. Now, that's the first one. The second one is that rig. See that? The skeleton, which I mentioned is the FK skeleton. So I'll turn that one off, and now I'll turn on the third one, the little rib icon. This is the actual character's skeleton. Okay, this is the rig. So by default we can turn that off because we do not want to actually select the rig itself, the joints. We don't want to select those joints. All right, we'll turn on the very first one again. Here are our controls. Okay, this is what we want to select. You can, if you wish now, turn on the FK. I will keep it on just for the purposes of this exercise to help clarify the motions, etc. You might be able to see things a little bit easier. So that's the first three. They're for visual purposes. Okay. Now, what I also want to state here, let's just go into setting the character up now. Okay. Our character's in a T-pose. This is the T-pose here. If you notice that you're having difficulty going back to the T-pose, make sure you have full body selected here, not partial body. These are the two that we tend to animate with, full body and partial body. We'll start with full body turned on and click the T-pose. Now let's talk about setting up the preferences. We'll go to our preferences section down here on the bottom right, the little running man, clicking that. And what we want to do first is make sure that our time slider down here is set from play every frame to 24 FPS times 1. That's important. That's our playback speed. Play every frame is for dynamics, physics, for example, particle effects. So we need to have 24 FPS selected. Great, and you can see it up here as well. Okay. Now, next up, we're going to come up under settings to animation. By the way, under settings, you probably want to have it set to linear centimeter. Okay, let's go to animation. By the way, there's two animation settings here. There's one here. We want to go to the second one down. Right. Now, evaluation mode, I have set to DG. Now here, by default, it'll be under rotation interpolation, independent Euler angle. That's fine. The bottom one, new HIK curve, human IK curve default, is quaternion cubic. Let's change that so it's the same as the top one, independent Euler. So click it and go through the list. It's the very top one there. Now they're both the same. Okay, make sure they're both the same. Okay, great. Now make sure you click save. Right, now we're in a good position to start our animation. Okay, I like to have, notice my wrist controls, these little circles over here in the interface. I can select a control. See, I can select them manually. In here, I can select a wrist control. I tend to do most of the positioning of each key pose with the wrist, like that. Okay, go back to the T pose. So that's how you can select them. If you want to select fingers, you can select them manually. Here's the finger controls, these little crosses, or alternatively, you can click the little arrow key here, and here are the finger controls. And here's our wrist control again. Click the up arrow to go back. Alright, now what I want to mention before we start animating is I like to have the wrists green. If they're not green, it'll be because the human IK controls here, see down the bottom here, the IK blend T for translate, IK blend R for rotate, may be set to 0. Just drag these up and do that for both wrists, both ankles, and the root. Okay. Now some animators like to have all of them green, these ones. I just go for those ones. Okay. Alright, now you notice that the feet are pinned. They've got these little pin tacks here. There are the pins here. Up the top here. There's a translate and a rotate pin, on and off. By default, the feet are pinned. This way, if I grab the hip control, the feet do not go through the floor. Okay, I'll unpin, say this, the character's right foot. I'll move it down. Now the foot goes through the ground. It's taken back up, and I'll turn back on pinning. You'll turn pinning off when you create a key pose where, for example, you want your character to move from this position. Maybe he's doing a jump, and your next key pose, he'll be up in the air. Right now he cannot jump. So you can go all pinning like this and then move him. See that? All pins are now off. Or alternatively, you can turn all pinning off there and just select each one, unpin, unpin, select this, unpin, unpin, which was what I tend to do. Select the root or the hip control, move it up, and then position your character's legs. And then do the key. Okay, I'm going to bring him back. I'm just undoing, bring him back to his T pose. First I'll pin those, bring him back to his T pose. There we go. So we're ready to start our animation. Now, one thing I want to mention is the workflow or the pipeline for our animation. We are using the pose to pose method of animation, okay, as opposed to a linear workflow, pardon the pun. So we're using pose to pose as opposed to a linear method, right? Let me just refer you to a video here. Okay, now this is available to you in the resources section in week 11 and I believe week 10. So it's worth going through this video here. I will put a link inside Slack for you all, and he discusses the actual workflow here, the pose to pose method. Okay, basically what are we doing? We need to plan our animation, look for reference images, etc. first, videos, etc. Right, you need to plan it, even take notes of each of your key poses, which is here are our 4 main pose to pose methods, or the workflow. Okay, these 4 here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. This is the actual process of going through it. So you create your key poses, your extremes, breakdowns, in betweens. Okay. So let's go into a key pose here. I'm going to set up my first key pose. Now, one thing I want to mention about this character, he has a tail which has been created independently of the human IK system and the definition, etc. So you will not have controls inside here. These are separate. So animate the character separately. At the end, once you've animated everything else, animate the character's tail last. Okay, the controls for those are here, and they do move along with the character. All right, just be aware of that. So when we animate, we tend to place the hip control first, and then you'll move outwards through the body, so down through the legs and up through the arms and then the head. Okay, so let's say I was going to set this character up for a jump. This is I'd be on frame 1 and I'd set my first pose. I'd bring him down, avoid having locked knees. Down, maybe I'd put him into a bit of a neutral pose. Maybe I'd turn this out a little bit. I'm just going to check the rotation of this by double clicking my rotation tool. And I've got an object as opposed to world. I tend to jump between object and world sometimes with the rotation. Okay, let's say he's about here. I'm going to bring put him into more of a neutral position. Just for the purpose of this exercise, I'm not going to go too in depth with these. Grab these, I'll just bring them up a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time posing this character because I could spend a fair while, a good 5 to 10 minutes just creating each key pose. And as I mentioned before, I will animate the tail last. Alright, maybe I'll give him a bit of a head tilt. So I select the head control, rotate it, maybe like that. Okay, alright, that's my first key pose. Now I'm ready to key it. Alright, I'm going to create a key. So on my timeline, now I could just hit S on my keyboard. Sure, that creates a key, right? But just be aware, this is what you need to start considering. This is your first pass. These are your key poses. We want to key all of the main controls. To do that, you can do this in two ways. One, you can select outside the character in here in the interface, then click here. That selects all of them. Then hit S on your keyboard. It creates the vertical line in your timeline, which denotes you've created a key. Right? Now, alternatively, because we're already on the all body up here, all character, full body, see, as opposed to limb up here, all you have to do, because we're on full body, is just hit S. Just be aware of that. Okay, so I could just hit S on my keyboard. Oh, I at least have to have one control selected, by the way. See that? You need to at least have one control selected. Then hit S and it would have keyed everything. Alright, I'm going to go to save frame 5 and prepare for my next key pose, which I don't want him to actually move for, say, the first 10 frames. He's going to be in a bit of an idle. So I'll go to here and I'll just hit S. Remember, I'm on full body. I have one selected, I'll hit S. Okay. Now I'll go to save frame we'll go to save frame 20. And I'm going to get him to crouch. So I'll grab this one. He's going to move down. Okay. Maybe I'll shuffle his foot back. Maybe move forward a little bit. Okay. Head down a little bit. I'll select a control and hit S. Remember, I'm now on frame 20 when I hit S. I have full body selected. These are my key poses. There we go. Now he comes up. Now, I want to also mention that We are passing through, we're doing in-betweens here, see that? Right? So key poses really require stepped passive animation. We can achieve that by just right-clicking on the timeline, holding the right mouse button, and you can go enable stepped preview if you wish. There. Now it just jumps, boop, boop, see that? That's stepped, jumping from one pose to the next. Okay, let's go to say frame 30. I'll do this in increments of 10s. Let's go to our next pose. He's going to have jumped up in the air now, so I'm going to turn off the pinning on the feet. Boink, boink, these two here. I'm going to select the hip control, move him up to the height of his jump, and now I start to pose him again. Maybe he's got this up. Maybe the hands are now forwards, up. So like that. Remember, I'm not keying that tail. Move it over a bit. And you really need to move around the entire character, really getting a good look around, you know, till you're happy with the pose. Make sure you're considering the 12 principles: silhouette, appeal, okay? Maybe even tilt them over a bit. Okay, that'll do. So I could either select everything in here like that and hit S, or once again alternatively select A control, full body, hit S. There we go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we go back, boom, 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 boom. Okay. And we'll do one more at frame 40 of the landing. So I'll select the hip control, move him into his landing position about here. I'm going to bring in that foot, maybe do a bit of a Spider-Man style landing. Get in a bit closer here. Whoops, rotate that. A bit closer. Got to bend that knee a bit. Okay. Crouch them. Now I'm going to pin those feet, remember. Time to pin them again. Both translate and rotates. There we go. Now I can position them a lot easier. See? Like that. Let's bring those hands down now. Boom, he's just landed. Boom. Maybe even get him a bit lower. Head still down. Maybe I'll rotate this. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, remember. Just purely for this exercise, so I'm not wasting too much of your time. Something like that. And I'm going to bring this leg out just a little. I've almost finished actually. Okay, I'll leave it at that for now. And I want to key everything again. Select. I'll do it this method and hit S. Alright, let's scroll back through. Good. Okay, let's change, right click on the timeline from, I'll turn off enable stepped. Let's see what we get. Okay, there we go. A very simple animation, but it's working. I will turn off the FK controls just so we can see things a bit better, and I'll turn off the main controls so you can see the process of animation there. What I'm going to do next, just to help you all out here, let's say I want to speed up this animation. I can select, and so it might be going too slow right now because to frame 40, I'll push play. Let's have a look here, play, down, jump. Let's say I wanted to speed up the animation. Well, I can now make sure I have full body. If I hold shift at frame 41, say, in the timeline, shift, I'm holding shift, I left mouse click and hold and drag, drag, drag. I'm still holding shift, left mouse and dragging, dragging, dragging to here, say to here. I don't want to move frame 10, maybe even here. Now, the yellow arrows, the outside ones, allow me to compress and speed up the animation or slow it down by moving it out or move it in. This will speed up the animation. I'm compressing it. Moving the arrow out slows it down. So I'll speed it up a bit. Now I let go. I've still got red. I right click and hold and I'll go snap. This will snap each of those main keys to an actual timeline key rather than in between them. It'll keep it at 34.26 as opposed to 26.2459. Okay, alright, let's go on our timeline here. I'm going to drag the slider down to say 34 and this should have sped it up even more. There we go. Now it's faster. Okay, so one more thing. I'm going to hold shift, left drag again, and the middle yellow arrows let you shuffle along left and right. I'll shuffle them a little bit this way, and I'll make it even quicker. Right click, snap again. By the way, you can delete keys here, paste keys, and copy them as well. Okay, snap. Boom. This will be even quicker now. Let's have a look. Push play, down, jump, down, jump. Okay, so that's the process for your first pass of animation. Going through the second pass, iterating through the same animation, you would start to focus on arcs. Okay, arcing motion, maybe a wrist. So going from a linear motion into an arc. I like to use, I'm going to go to animation here, and under animation you've got visualize. Motion trails, create editable motion trail can help. These are little tools that can help you a fair bit. So I'll go into the options so you can see this. Start and end or time slider, increment 1 pre-frames, post frames, trail thickness. I'll go for 2 just so as you guys can see it better, and I'll say 3 for the key size. I'm going to hit apply just to see if we see anything, and there we go. You can see that arc, and I had the left wrist control selected. Now I can alter this. I'll close this now. Right? You'll notice here are the vowel keys, those little white points. I can select those and move them. So when I scroll through the timeline, you can see that left wrist is following that arc. See that? If I wanted that wrist to come up higher here, lift it up there, okay, and come back. Oh, see that? When I play it back, it's now reaching up. That left wrist, there it is, now reaching up there. Boom. Now if you want to delete the arc over in your outliner, here they are here, motion trail handle, this one. Just simply delete that. Okay, boom. And you'll still keep the same animation. Okay, great. You've also got ghosting. If I select my character, visualize ghost. Okay. I'm just going to undo that. Visualize ghost. I'll try it again. Visualize ghost. Let me see how many we've got. Steps before, custom steps. Yep. Step size. Let's see if we get anything. So that's ghosting on. Oh, we need to view the ghosting. Ghost selected. Anyway, I'll let you guys play around with ghosting. Okay, I'm sure you can get that turned on. All right, you might have to view the ghost. It's just like onion skinning. All right, so look, that's it for now. I wanted to keep this short and sweet, and I think I fairly well have. That's a very brief introduction. Just let me check if there's anything else you really need to know regarding the human IK. You've also got, I'll go back to the T-pose. You've also got here full body. You've also got body part. Just remember, if you're going to key in body part, it's only a single limb. Okay, I tend to change the body part after the first pass of animation when I only want to start keying individual controls. Right? You don't want to keep keying all of the controls as you move through pass number 2, 3, 4. All right, that's when you start to key only individual controls, like maybe you just want to make a change to a finger. You don't want to go and key everything, only that finger, so you'll make that. All right, and then you'll be hitting just S on your keyboard as opposed to selecting all here. All right. All right, well, I hope that helps, and happy animating. Thanks for watching.